Good morning, Inspire and Illuminators. It's me, Jennifer Engel, CEO and founder of Inspire and Illuminate, which is me just doing these Jaunts with Jen based on my morning quote posts, which are based on my reflections of the past 24 hours. And I'm also planning a highest possibility book launching party. And I was also kind of reminded that libraries like to have presenters, and October's coming up. So maybe doing some presentations at local libraries with my first book, Heaven Under Construction. And speaking of construction, my quote was something like, how do you break through barriers? So you break through barriers by developing strategies and by having someone go through or around the barriers with you. And then I said, on the very bottom, I said, note. I said, several strategies. It is not one and done. I said, and they go through it with you, not for you. So I also talked about in my Facebook post how barriers could be anything from light and silly, which I'm going to talk about where the quote came from, which was kind of light and silly, all the way down to big, high brick walls that we feel are in our way, okay? Either physically or mentally, emotionally, or subconsciously, vibrationally. So I'm actually speaking to you from Minnesota this morning, don't you know? For those of you who don't know, I was born in California. Around 3 or 4, my mom and I moved back to Minnesota where she grew up. And then in my 30s, I moved to Illinois, and my husband and my families still mostly live in Minnesota. So we generally come to Minnesota once or twice a year. And the drive in the past was consistently 6 hours and 20 minutes. But now that, cars are a little safer, roads are built a little bit better, cars can go a little bit more quickly, it's probably reducing more to 6 hours. Anyway, it's still a lot of driving. Now, when I make the drive, I have coping strategies, right? Coping strategy number 1 for almost anything, for almost all of us, is eating, right? When we're stressed, when we need to stay focused, when we're bored, we eat. But I do kind of have this thing that I've been living by for the past couple years, which is eat when I'm hungry, not eat when there's a scheduled time, and not necessarily eat when I'm bored. But a strategy could be don't eat just before you drive so that you're hungry when you drive, so that is something else you can do while you drive, right? So that was one strategy, and that worked for me for quite a while. I also got bubble gum to kind of keep my brain active a little bit and my taste buds. And then my other strategy is to have a playlist that's pretty upbeat. And one of my other stupid human talents is I know tons and tons of song lyrics. And even though I dropped out of choir in 7th grade, I actually do like to sing. And it reminds me of the Elf movie. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. And those of you who have been following me, or if you haven't, welcome. You know that I talk about how we are vibrational beings. And by singing, we are literally tuning our bodies to that song. So I have created all these playlists, and the playlists for me are only positive because I want to be in a positive reality, a positive world. So I was listening and singing. Now for me and my family, my sons and everything, so my 12-year-old was with me, and he fell asleep because cars do that. I don't know how many of you out there that happens to, but it definitely happens to us. We get so tired that the car, the singing, like almost a lullaby, the vibration, the light sway, the warmth, kind of lack of anything else to do, just boom, puts us out. So I was about halfway through the drive, and I started to feel the barrier. I started to feel the, oh my God, I'm tired. How am I going to finish the rest of this drive? But then, that's where the second part of my quote kicked in. My son woke up, and then he and I were talking. I let him become the guest DJ for a while. And then once I broke through that barrier, I was good to go. And I went from thinking, how on earth am I going to make this trip, to we went to, well, damn, I think we can actually make this trip in one shot without even stopping. When we broke through the barrier, we had so much momentum that we could actually go farther than I thought we were able to go. You know, the first hour or two in, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a long drive. How am I going to make it all the way through? Hour 3, I hit the barrier, and then my son and I and our strategies came up with how to break through the barrier together. And then not only did I go from almost like a negative mindset, how am I going to do this? Okay, I've got my strategies. But then when I was getting tired toward the end, now that I had somebody else to help me out, my mind did its little script flip. I was able to go from thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this, to being more like a bow and arrow, shooting past the barrier. Have you ever done that? You might be playing tug of war with a person or a pet with a rope, right? And that's what these barriers can feel like. So it was like me and this barrier were playing tug of war a little bit. And then once I broke through it, it's like the barrier, let go and just pulled me through, right? Like an arrow shooting forward. Now, barriers can be as simple and silly as getting tired on a drive. They can be physical, like that. Maybe you're exercising and you have a barrier and you need to break through it. Maybe you are physically recovering from an illness and you're plodding along slowly. It feels like forever that you're gonna recover, and then just one day, boom, you're able to get up and go. It could be a mental block. So many times people think, I can't do this, I can't do that. That's a mental barrier. And I do believe in that quote, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So I teach people how to flip the script, and you can do it in steps. It doesn't have to be like this dramatic change, right? It can be like the little engine that could. All right, I don't know. This seems long, this seems heavy, this seems difficult. I don't think I can do it. But I'll try. I'll try. I'll try. I'll try. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Then you just kind of like keep your mental head down and you just keep taking one step in front of the other, no matter how long the journey. And then all of a sudden you wake up or you look up and you're at the top of the mountain. I know I could. And then you're going down the mountain with that momentum, right? I know I could. I know I could. Because once you break through the barrier, then you get even more momentum, which is even more incentive to break through the barrier. Okay? Emotionally, so many people get together in relationships, and I've been watching and learning something from my own relationships, as well as watching, learning, and listening to many other people tell me about their relationships. And here's something I've discovered over the past couple years, that in relationships, we generally do one of two things. What makes the difference between a good, successful relationship and a relationship that's going to struggle and not feel well and be susceptible to corrosion and invasion? What it is I love the way somebody described this in the past. If you can think about each person being like a bubble, right? And inside this bubble, like, represents their subconscious. It represents all the physical, mental, emotional experiences and memories and feelings and judgments that they have about those memories, feelings, and experiences. And in each person's bubble, it's like a potion, right? Where some of the potion has been kind of like dark. They may not have been born in the best place in space. They might have had experiences that led to trauma. Or the other can happen too, where maybe they were born in a good place in space, but maybe they chose to like go into the army or the services or service-oriented fields like, DCFS social workers, counselors, trauma nurses, EMTs, right? Because they wanted to help people. But in their experiences, they were traumatized themselves. Okay? So we have this whole like mixture inside of us of positive, beautiful memories that we like and love, but we also have events, memories, experiences that have triggered trauma. Now, in general, the more we have of one extreme or the other is going to be the more that we have in our bubble. And I'm a believer that we are energetic beings, that we have electromagnetic hearts and things, and we're going to attract people, places, and experiences based on the loudest vibration and memories. Now, the good thing is, we are also, I've been seeing like dolphins, whales, and bats. When we send out a signal for help, then we will also attract that as well, if we need to. And the help can come to us in a wide variety of formats. It can come physically, physical resources. It can come mentally, like me sharing my lessons that I've learned and passing that knowledge on to other people. It can come emotionally. All of a sudden you attract someone who's going to help you or a group see the world differently and really start supporting you. Okay? So you have two individual people, and this could work for groups and stuff too, but I want to keep it simple. You imagine that when two people come together, there are these individual bubbles. And inside their bubble is a mixture of all the experiences, thoughts, feelings, judgments they've had about those experiences. In some bubbles, it's going to be more heaven-like and beautiful with maybe just a few bugs, a few irritants in there, right? And in other bubbles, it's going to be like a nightmare with very little light or hope. And then, of course, you have all the bubbles in between. Okay? Now, when we meet someone, we just see the outside bubble. We don't know there's all that shit in there, and we don't know what crap they have in their bubble. If it's more heavenly, or if it's more like a nightmare. So when these two people come together, and they really start to develop a relationship, their bubbles merge. But when the bubbles merge, there's a cut, right? And now, everything that was in each person's separate bubble is spilling into the other person's bubble. And now we have a mix. And so at that point, whoever's is the loudest sometimes will win, unless the other person is awake and aware of what's happening. And I'll tell you, I wasn't, and most people aren't aware that this happens. So you meet someone, you develop a really close bond, relationship, and this could be with a pet, it could be with a romantic partner, it could be with your children, it could be anything, fill in the blank. A community organization, right? So these two bubbles come in, and there's a cut, and there's a spilling in. At that point, the people involved have a choice. But many people aren't even aware that they have a choice or what's going on. So what happens a lot of times, not all the time, is the fear, the shadows, the darkness will come in first. Well, at first, the heaven and the light will come in, right? They call that the honeymoon period. And then you keep taking that journey together past the land of light, and you start seeing the shadows that are in this land, right? Now what happens when these subconscious shadows come in is they are actually, in my belief, conscious beings. They may not have a physical body, but they want to live. And the only way these shadows in your subconscious can live is if you feed them your beliefs and your emotions. That's how they live, in my belief. Okay? And when you develop a relationship with another person, you become vulnerable because their shadows can now start creeping into your bubble. Okay? And most people don't even know this is going on. And so what do? They feed each other's shadows more fear, more anxiety, more guilt, more insecurity, to the point where now the shadows rule the relationship and not the people. Okay? And again, if you've listened to me talk or haven't, how do you know what kind of people you want to form a relationship with. How do you know which people you want with you to help you break the barriers? Well, again, how does that person make you feel? Even if their shadows come in or your shadows come out, do they give you courage to face those shadows? Or do they grow your shadows? Do they make you forgive yourself for growing these shadows? Or do they make you feel more guilty for growing these shadows? Do they build up your self-confidence that you can transform your shadows of fear to courage, from guilt to acceptance, from insecurity to self-confidence, from anger and jealousy to compassion, from lies to truth, from misperception to clear perception? Or do they grow all those other negative things? Does this person make you feel more or less functional over time, or group? If you're part of a community group, this can work for you too. Whether it's volunteer, religious work, it doesn't matter. And then, does this person, group, whatever, give you more or less energy over time? Do they make you feel more healthy or more sick over time? So that's how you're going to know if you're finding the right person to help you break through the barriers. Okay? And then, if you've already been in a long-term relationship with someone and you're just waking up to the fact that this person is growing the negativity and fear and all that they're actually draining your energy, that they're actually making you less functional over time, then you have a couple options. Option number 1, take a timeout. Step back from that person for a while and really analyze the situation now and over time. Ask yourself during your timeout, can this person and I just do a tune-up where we can change just a few things within our relationship and then we can actually start flipping the script? Do we need an overhaul where we need to call in some other people? You know, a physical doctor, counselor, mediator, whatever, consultant to come in and help us make maybe some more major changes and do an overhaul? Or do I need to do a trade-in? And trade-ins can happen 2 different ways. It can either be because another thing in my belief is that that leaving creates feelings of abandonment, and it multiplies lack, and it diminishes love and compassion. Where if this person is truly physically hurting you and emotionally hurting you to the point where you can't recover when you're in their presence, then I would say, yes, do a trade-in, get out, move away. But if this person is willing to work with you on some point, but they're just kind of like another little broken human being, because most of us are imperfect, but they are not physically hurting you, they are not mentally on purpose or emotionally trying to hurt you, then you can stay with that person, but then get a trade-in with someone else who really helps you, whether that's like a counselor, a friend. Some people are moving into open relationships. Whatever actually helps you, but make sure that you ask yourself the 3 questions again, right? Question 1, how is this person or experiencing making me feel? Right? In the moment and over time. Are they giving me more energy or less energy? Positive vibes, negative vibes. More functional or less functional over time? Because what I found is sometimes you might start off with someone and you're growing your fears and insecurities and whatever, and it might seem like the opposite, but sometimes by incorporating another person, whether it's a doctor, a counselor, a mediator, a life coach, another relationship, whether it's friendship or romantic, if that other person is really strong in helping you overcome fear, guilt, insecurity, anger, jealousy, then if you're still staying with that other person who you two grew each other's fears and insecurities with, it's amazing. It can actually tune up that other relationship. And now, rather than creating feelings of abandonment, fear, guilt, whatever, and that other person that you started that relationship with, you can actually start healing them too. Now, this doesn't always work, and sometimes there's a barrier to that. There's barriers like fear and guilt and whatever in order to move to that spot as well. Okay? So sometimes that's the first barrier too when you're in a relationship. So to wrap things up, my quote was about how do you break through barriers? You break through barriers by developing strategies. And the barriers could be as simple as, me trying to overcome the barrier of being sleepy when I drive. Okay, think about something simple like that for you. All the way to me trying to get over, breast cancer treatment and trauma, right? Fill in that other blank for you. And anything in between. We do that by learning, by either researching the internet, getting books, going to workshops, talking to other people. We do that by first learning. We can also practice those things I talk about, like mindfulness, meditation, visualization. We do that by tuning up ourselves, by getting help from others. But when we get help from others, we still need to ask ourselves the question, is this the right person to give me the help? And it could be a doctor you could ask these questions about. I don't really always have the best luck with doctors. It could be a counselor. It could be a relationship. It could be a community. How is this person help me overcoming barriers? Are they encouraging? Are they alleviating my fear and giving me more courage? Are they helping alleviate guilt and accepting myself and forgiving myself and others? Or are they making me feel more guilty? Are they increasing my self-confidence or decreasing it? Are they increasing my compassion and opening my heart, or are they closing it and creating barriers? Are they helping me speak and stand in my own truth, even if I am afraid? Or do they feel like I need to still hide away and close myself off from the world? Right? So again, how is that person, those groups or whatever, making you feel, positive or negative? Are they giving you more or less energy? And are they making you feel more or less functional over time? I know I keep repeating these questions and these ideas over and over and over again, but to be honest, that's how the world works. A lesson will keep coming back to you until you learn it. And the strategies and the tools will keep coming back to you until they are on autopilot. You don't even have to think about it, you just do it. Like driving a car, riding a bike, eating, okay? That's why I keep repeating these same questions and concepts, because I want them to go so deep into your subconscious that you put them on autopilot. I hope this Jaunt with Jen has helped someone today, so you can use your own strategies and your own people around you to first help yourself break through barriers, and then to teach others around you how to do the same. Because now more than ever, the world needs people who can break through barriers and lead us to higher states, and it needs you. Peace and blessings.